Hi and welcome to PolyOriginals with Fiona Abel-Smith. Today I thought I'd show you how to do this cane here. It's quite a nice easy one, just a couple of skinner blends, and then I'll show you how to end up with a petal like this. And with this one you can do all sorts of fun things. If you're into doing your cards, you can make some nice toppers. If you're into jewellery, you can make a nice brooch, something like that. These are all unbaked at the moment, so I've just placed that on some backing clay. You can sort of use it, make it small, reduce the cane down to small petal sizes, and then you can cover some beads, do something like that. So a nice simple cane we're going to do today. So tool-wise, we don't need very much. Tissue blade, just to cut the clay, and a roller just to help us create a shape. And other than that, I'm going to use the magenta and the yellow to make the main part of the cane. I'm going to use a bit of purple and some white to do another bit of a blend, to make a second skinner blend, and then a little bit of dark blue. So all we're going to do to start with is I'm just going to condition all these colours, and we'll come back when I've got that done. I wasn't planning on taking you through the conditioning clay today because I do have a video to show you how to do that. And then what we're about to do is some skinner blends, and I'm also not going to take you through the skinner blends because again I and lots of other people have videos on showing you how to do the skinner blends. So I'm going to work on the basis that if you need to do any of that, you can go and find the YouTube videos, and I'll do links to mine at the end and in the description below as well. Okay, so there are most of my colours. I have got a bit more white, but I've left it like that at the moment. And all I'm going to do to start with is to do a skinner blend with the yellow, the magenta and the white. So I've changed the shape of that just slightly because I want to square off my colours, and I want more yellow than magenta, so I'm just going to take that off there, and I'm going to take that bit off. So you can see there sort of not quite twice as much yellow as the magenta, but getting on that way. Now both of these have been through the pasta machine on setting number 3, which is a medium setting on my pasta machine. All I'm going to do now is chop down through, slightly offsetting the two colours from the corners. So if you can see here, here and here, I didn't quite go all the way up to a corner. Now I've left a gap there because what I've got to put inside is a little strip of white. Now that's the white I did earlier. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take a strip. So that's 2 layers of the white, because of course I've got 2 layers of the yellow and 2 layers of the magenta. I'm just going to add that in. I'm not overly worried that that magenta there curves down slightly, so it's not pristine square, because when I put it all together that's going to be fine. And then all I'm going to do, so I've got 2 settings, or 2 layers on setting number 3. I'm going to pull those up, and then I'm going to start putting it through the pasta machine, fold end first, and I'm going to put the pasta machine setting up at least 1, possibly 2 settings. I'll probably put it through at setting number 1 on my machine, which is quite a thick setting. So I'll bring you back when I've got the skinner blend nicely done. Okay, so there it is, the skinner blend done. And because I put that white in the middle, we've got a much subtler blend going down from the pink all the way through to the lemon yellow. So I'm setting number 1 at the moment. And whenever I'm working with my canes, I always like to work about 1 inch, 2.5 centimetres in thickness. So I'm just going to chop that in 2, lay that one on top there, and then I'm just going to pinch the ends. And by doing that, it means it's easier to put through the pasta machine. I'm going to put it back through the pasta machine, this end first, so I get a longer piece on the same setting, setting number 1 that I was just using. So there we go, it's my longer piece. And now I can have 2 options. I can either take it down through the pasta machine, 1 setting at a time, till I get to my thinnest setting, or, because I know my machine will take it, as will the clay, I'm going to put my machine straight down to the lowest setting. But don't do that if you know that your machine's not good for doing that. And my other tip is, before I put it through on setting number 9, which is my thinnest setting, I'm going to turn the handle a couple of times to make sure that any excess clay that's perhaps stuck underneath will actually get out of the way and not give me too much colour distortion on the yellow end of my clay. So I'm going to put it back through setting number 9. And here we have it. And because I did that turn, a couple of turns through, there is a tiny bit, but not too much muck at all on the end of my polymer clay sheet. So if you were a bit fussy about your clay, you could of course always chop that off to give yourself a pristine end. I'm not overly bothered because I know what's going to happen in the next stages. So all I'm going to do is take that and then just gradually roll it up. And when I'm rolling, I'm trying to make sure there's no air getting trapped in between the layers of clay, and I'm trying to keep it nice and even in height. And the thing to do whenever you're doing the clay and rolling like this is to always manipulate this bit you're rolling. So if this bit is longer, actually push this out so it's longer. If this bit is thinner, push that bit in so it's thinner. So you're always changing this to meet the size of whatever it is you're rolling up. Because what you want is nice, even piece when you've finished. And all the way up till it gets to the end. And there effectively is your cane, a nice Skinner blend from yellow through to magenta. And all we're going to do now is chop straight down through the middle in corners, into quarters. Try and keep them even if you can. And there we have our 4 quarters. And then exactly the same as I've done in some of my other videos, we're now going to change the shape of this so it's not a triangle. And we're going to do this by pulling up the sides of our pieces. Okay, you can see there where I've taken the dark sides and wrapped them up, and then you can do something very technical, squidge it so it's shorter. Now I normally do this flat on the board because I've been doing it for a while, but it's easier obviously to show you in the video if I hold it up. But now that I've got that one going, I will do my next piece. And what I tend to do is I tend to do 2 pieces at a time and then push those 2 pieces together. So I'll do this last one, folding up the sides, pressing it narrower, and this one, folding up the sides, pressing it narrower, put those 2 together, and now I can put all 4 together. What I'm doing is I'm just pressing along the bottom at the moment. I'm not worrying about the top part, just at the bottom. And when I've done the bottom, now I can bring those over. And because it's Fimo Soft, that is nice and soft and easy to do. So I end up with a triangular shaped cane. And I'm just going to emphasise that. We're just going along the triangle for a little bit. Okay, so there's the cane. So that's what we've got so far. And then I'm going to put those 2 pieces together. Put them together that end. And then I want this bit, the purple bit, to go flat. So I'm going to push it down on the tile and actually force it down. So holding the 2 top bits together with your fingers, force the bottom bits down. And then you're pushing it down into a triangular shape like that. And now when we go along, we can push it back into a triangular shape. Now I don't want too much in the way of length for this, because I want it to be nice and even all the way through. If you find you've got a very uneven bit on this end, you can chop this off. I don't think mine's too bad at the moment. I'll probably chop a bit off it in a moment. But I want to keep as much length as I can, if I can. So I'll just probably take about that much off, have a look and see what I've got. Yes, that's fine. I've still got enough pattern there. So that's the pattern we've got so far. And what we're going to do now is we're going to chop that into 2 even pieces. Now, I use a measuring sheet. This is a sheet that I've downloaded from www.printablepaper.net, and this is a 1-inch measuring sheet. I use these all the time when I'm doing anything like cane work, because it's so easy to cut your pieces into 2 even halves to get your angles and everything else. And for this one, say it's an inch sheet, and I then laminate them. Makes it easy, and you can work on them all the time. So chop straight down the middle, so you get 2 even pieces. And that is the cane so far. So what we've got to do now is we need to add our middle bit. So we're going to make our middle bit with purple and white. Put those 2 bits to one side, and I will grab my purple, and I will grab some of the extra white I had. Now this only needs to be a small cane. So I'm just going to chop the white so it's roughly the same size as the purple, and exactly the same as we did before. We're just going to do a little Skinner blend. Turn that one over there, that one over here, and again I've offset. And the reason I offset, and I mentioned this when I do my Skinner blend video tutorial, the reason I offset is particularly with Fimo Soft, the colour concentration is so much that if I didn't leave myself a little bit of the extra colours just at the end, I'd end up having no pure white at one end. It would all go to purple, and the same this end. So by doing that, I know I'm going to at least have a little bit of white left at the end. As before, fold it over. Again, this was setting number 3, so because I've got 4 layers there now, I'm going to put it through, fold first on setting number 1, and I'll bring you back again when I've done that one. Okay, so there it is, Skinner blend done again. Just a short one this time because it wasn't much clay. But again, I'm just going to take those 2 pieces, cut them in half, press down to make sure they're nicely adhered there, and again put that through the pasta machine on setting number 1 again. Give me a longer strip, and then as before I'm going to put mine straight down to setting number 9, but if your machine doesn't work like that, go down one setting at a time to give yourself a nice long strip, and I'll come back when we've got that down setting number 9. And there we go, there's our nice completed Skinner blend. This time, rather than rolling, we're going to concertina, but we only want a very small cane, so I'm only going to concertina. Can you see there? Probably not much wider than my finger. About 1/3 of an inch, about just under 1 centimetre. I'm just going to fold it backwards and forwards, and when you're doing a concertina cane, the thing to try and remember is to make sure there's no air trapped in any of those folds as you're going backwards and forwards. There we go, just keep going all the way until you do the whole thing. Don't worry if it goes slightly out of shape, because we'll bring that back in a minute. But all we want is that nice blend from white all the way through to the deeper purple. There we go. So as you can see, not particularly even, but that's fine, because we're going to do that technical thing again. We're going to squidge. So all I'm doing is I'm pressing it down, turning it up and pressing it down on the other side, and I've elongated the purple to make it more even, and then we're just going to make it into a roughly round shape. Press down on the ends. Now I know that both my ends will be distorted, but I'm not that worried about that because I don't need very much of this cane at all. What we're now going to do is we're going to cover it in some of the dark blue. So it's the dark blue clay we had from earlier, but it's much too thick at the moment, so I want a much thinner setting than this. This was setting number 3, so I'm going to put it down probably about setting number 6 on my machine and see how we come out with that. Look. Yes, I think for the size of that, I think I'm quite happy with number 6. It's going to go around my cane. So all I'm going to do is lay the cane on top, use my tissue blade to cut either side, and then cut off one end so it's neat. And then what I want to do, if I show you here on this one, can you see where the line goes up through the inside of that centerpiece? And we're going to do that by simply chopping straight down through the middle of this cane. Having opened it on one side, take the bit you've just cut, which is the right width, put that on, and then put the 2 pieces back together. And automatically, you'll have added that stripe on the inside. And we can then, because we're going to go all the way around this, just use this to go all the way around the outside, and then chop off any excess clay that we've got. And then we have our insert that we're going to use. Now I'm going to put this clay back in through the pasta machine, again on setting number 6, because I know I'm going to need a little bit more in just a minute or 2. So we now have our insert, which is going to sit inside both pieces of our cane, but at the moment it's way too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reduce this down, and I know I'm not going to need very much, so I'm actually going to chop that in half. So I've got half that I can put aside and use for later. And this one half that I do want, I'm going to make into more of a diamond shape. And I'm going to do that by using my thumbs and fingers and pressing inwards. So I'm not pulling out, I'm pressing in. And if you do that and press inwards, you automatically reduce your cane. And what I always recommend is to then turn over and do exactly the same on the other side, because you now know that your cane hasn't twisted. Little hair there. If it was like that, for instance, I would then know I needed to push that back. And having known that it's all straight, I can then start reducing it. And because I've made it a diamond shape, it means I've got square sides. So I can then start reducing it on my tile just by pushing backwards and forwards with my fingers and going along. And to be honest, you can make this whatever size you want. In the cane I did, it was quite large in comparison to the sides of the pieces. So I'll probably do something very similar, and having got it reduced down and made it square in shape, I think it's probably still a bit big. Let's go a little bit smaller than that. So you can see why I chopped off half the cane, because I only needed a small amount. But once you've got to a stage where you think you're okay, it's very square at the moment, so I'm going to put it the right way up, so it's going to sit that way in the cane, and I'm just going to press all the way down the edges just to make that more of a petal or a teardrop shape. And then if we chop through, take the end away, you can see there how it's come out. So I think that's going to be about the right size. So I can put that to one side for a minute, and what I need to do now is to create a place inside these two where that cane is going to sit. And to do that, we're going to put our pieces down so that this pink is uppermost and the yellow goes down. I'll do one piece at a time. I'm going to take my roller, and I'm going to use the shape of this roller to create a little groove where that's going to sit, and I'm also just going to pull the pink clay around the top to create a shape, and then a little bit of a roll underneath. So if I hold that up, you can see there I've created a little place where that one is going to sit. And repeat on the other side. So a little groove towards the top, pull the clay over so that when you put the two halves together they're going to meet nicely, and a little bit of a roll down. And then hopefully when we put the two bits together, they do that way up. Probably that's the easiest way to see it. You'll see there we've created a nice groove. So that piece then sits just inside there, and chop off the excess. And then we're going to take the piece of blue clay we had from earlier, sit that piece down onto it so we've got the right width. We use our tissue blade at the bottom and front and back, and we can now just add in the clay there so that it fits nicely up to our piece. I'm going to use my finger to poke it in to make sure it's nicely adhered in there, and then just chop off the excess. And now when we put the two pieces together, we're going to have our piece sat nicely inside. Make sure you adjust both top and bottom. And we now have that piece of blue will be this end bit of the insert that goes down there, which makes it look as though it's attached to the bottom of the cane. So all we need to do now is just change the shape from this to that. So to start with, we're just going to push in on the sides. We're just going to round off. Let's use my thumb just to round off the points at the end. Round off the points at that end. And then once you've rounded them off, you can start changing the shape. So all I'm doing with my thumbs, I'm just gently pushing on this side and pushing up towards here, whilst at the same time hopefully starting to make more triangular shape at the bottom. You can also round off by rolling at the top. And then once you've got it to a certain size, we can do that same diagonal. So remember what I did with my fingers? So I'm sort of doing that again to create a diagonal. Because it's always easier to reduce your shape down into a diagonal first and then round off the corners. And try and keep that blue line at the bottom. And then once we've got it to a shape we're happy with, roll over the top. So I'm creating a round on the top of that, and then push down on the sides to create more of a teardrop shape. You can also emphasise by pushing in on the yellow with your fingers. And then moment of truth, when we chop down through, and we have got our insert nicely set. And depending on the size, the channel you created, it'll change the size and the shape of what you have inside. So that was the tutorial, and once you've done that, there are various things you can do. You can, of course, reduce this, make it into 5, 6 or 7 pieces, and then backfill to create a large circular cane. But I like to keep mine separate because you can then have more fun with them, I think. To do something like this, I simply reduced the cane down and took off smaller slices. I'll do that for you now. So I just take off a chunk. I never reduce the whole thing at once. And I'm going to push that down into that square shape we used earlier. And again, I was just using my fingers to create the diamond shape. And then once I've reduced it to the size I want, Then just press on the sides to create more of a teardrop shape. And then when you chop down through, you end up with all your little petals. So just do 6 on that one. And if you take yourself, I'll take a little bit of that because it's excess clay, roll yourself a tiny little bit of clay, push down into the middle, and then you can start adding your petals. And then all I did was take a little bit of bright green clay, push that down into the middle, use a blunt-ended knitting needle, and then I also used the blunt end of a beading needle just to create lots of little holes all the way around the side, make it look more detailed and more textured. So that's a very simple, easy way to create a 3-dimensional flower. Just show you that one. For the bead, I simply took some black clay, rolled it into a ball, reduced my clay down even more, so it went down to sort of that size and lower, and then just took off several little slices and rolled them into the background clay. And then for this one, I simply made myself a background colour of what's called an Inset cane, and again there's loads of video tutorials on how to do that. Inset cane, yellow through to green in the background, added the flowers on top, again separate petals, rolled them in, and I've just added a blue border. So lots of different things you can do with this one. It's a nice, easy cane work tutorial. Hopefully you followed all the steps through that and you'll come out with something similar. I'd love to see any photos of anything you do. If you like the video, just tick like at the bottom, and don't forget, if you haven't already, to subscribe to my channel, and then you'll get all the latest videos as and when they come out. Thank you very much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.